The Red Eye Radio podcast is a service of Freightliner and Detroit.
Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. This is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, 86690 Red Eye. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thanks so much for being here this morning. Hi. How's everybody doing?
So, what they're trying to tell me is that Comey doesn't like Trump?
Yeah, Comey doesn't like Trump. That's
weird.
Yeah. Comey is offended by Trump.
Really?
Yes. We'll get to more of that if you're just waking up here in just a little bit. Some of the excerpts of his book that have come out that actually, I believe, do more damage to the Obama administration than it does to anything about Trump. It's just...
as far as what we have learned so far, anything that is substantial from the book that's really worth noting, in terms of his role at the FBI, it's more damaging to her than it is to Trump.
And we'll get that here in just a little bit. More people offended. By the way, it seems like everything crazy this week has come from that big island.
Yeah.
You know, the UK area. First off, the London mayor and knife control to the police department in Great Britain. We brought you from the Twitter feed that back in the middle of March confiscated weapons and put it on their Twitter site.
Yeah, these were some of the most dangerous weapons on the planet.
Taking weapons off the street. They're actually promoting it.
Yeah.
And
very dangerous weapons.
God is my witness. Because I checked it. I said, this has got to be fake news. And when went to the actual Twitter site and the check was there and everything else. It is, I forgot the name of the police department right now, but I don't have it in front of me here. But just to reference back to it, and they had a picture of the weapons that were confiscated that were a couple of screwdrivers, a file, right?
Yeah, there was a file, there was a wrench, or pliers, right?
Pliers? Two pliers, a needle nose and a regular, looked like could have been an electronic cutting. I couldn't tell what the kind of pliers the other one was.
Yeah, okay.
One was a needle nose.
Okay.
Yeah. And somebody posted some of the response. If needle nose pliers are banned, then only criminals will have needle nose.
Yeah, if you outlaw needle nose pliers, then only outlaws will have needle nose pliers. And we don't even want to get to wire strippers.
Yes. But then more coming from the same island, from Scotland.
Oh, great.
Free Pride Glasgow, which bills itself as being non-commercial and more open-minded alternative to the traditional Glasgow LGBT pride events, is taking drastic steps to prevent the oppression of marginalized people.
Okay.
Therefore, they're banning drag queens from its annual parade. Now, we're bringing this up because Eric and I believe we were probably some of the first to be talking about this a few years back when we said all the transgender stuff, the transracial stuff, the Rachel Dolezal, what it's going to do is it's going to destroy liberalism from inside. That the Obama administration, continuing with the identity politics of separating every group, from Bernie Sanders, coming up and trying to separate more groups. College students from billionaires. College students are the victims. The billionaires, you're only where you are right now because the billionaires exist. Therefore, they owe you something. Mm-hmm. And then, as we said, the transgender, the fluid transgenders, the 53 forms of genders that exist out there. Then Rachel Dolezal and transracialism, which now has become part of officially proposed legislation in, was it Delaware or Rhode Island? I forgot which one it was.
I think it's Rhode Island.
Yeah, I thought it was Rhode Island too. And in the school districts where you can be whatever you want, whatever race you want to be, whatever gender/sex you want to be. It's interesting because we still get that today. Well, you guys are saying, that sex and gender are the same thing. They're two different things. Well, yeah, they are because you changed the definition of them. Mm-hmm. They were always the same until the activists changed the definition in order to fit their narrative, which, of course, always has to be done.
Yeah.
And as we have often stated, you can be whatever you wish to be. We have no objection to that whatsoever. You can dress the way that you want. You can call yourself what you want. It doesn't mean I have to accept it. And that's what they're offended by, is the fact that, sorry, we don't accept it. You can do whatever you wish to do. But in this case, after extensive consideration, Free Pride Glasgow committee members decided that having men dressed as women would be offensive to transgender individuals and that non-binary people within their ranks would be uncomfortable with having drag performances.
Mm-hmm.
The needs of the most marginalized groups within our community come first, the group told the UK Independent.
Oh.
It was felt...
Now, the needs of the most marginalized, right. Is it not the needs of the most recently marginalized? I think that's what they meant to say.
Yes, most recently marginalized.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, that's the whole point. What's happening even inside the LGBT is, well, we're more marginalized than you are, and then that whole debate begins.
Mm-hmm.
It was felt that drag performances would make some of those who were transgender or questioning their gender uncomfortable. It was felt by the group that within the trans non-binary caucus that some drag performances, particularly cis drag, hinges on the social view of gender and making it into a joke. However, transgender individuals do not feel as though their gender identity is a joke, Free Pride Glasgow said in a release statement. The decision notably unpopular with famous drag queens, many of them who took to social media to suggest that Free Pride Glasgow was drawing unnecessary and offensive distinctions of its own. Several Pride organizations chimed in to say that they, too, had considered banning drag queens over concerns that they make a mockery over the notion of gender fluidity, but ultimately decided to keep the offensive and marginalizing performers out of a sense of inclusion. And it was funny because they have a tweet here from Michelle Visage, who was the co-host with RuPaul on RuPaul's show. Was it VH1, I guess? Who said, "Who the hell bans drag queens from gay pride? They're very backbone of the pride celebration. Hello, ever hear of the Stonewall riots?" And you actually go back, and this is what we have said. If you look inside the gay community, the Stonewall riots were, a pivoting moment of gay liberation in the United States, and probably a symbol worldwide. Also that the cops need to stop harassing us. You need to back then tolerate. You don't need to accept us. You need to tolerate us. You need to not. You need to not harass us if we're doing something that is legal. But part of the imagery that came out of the Stonewall riots, and anybody in the gay and as you said, we have to start talking about old liberals versus new liberals,
right?
Yeah. And if you're talking about in liberalism and the gay agenda, the old liberal gay agenda versus the new liberal gay agenda, which is two separate things, because now they're fighting on the inside. And by the way, we did warn the LGB back before T was allowed, and when they allowed T, we said you're going to run into problems with this. Eric and Gary, two heterosexuals, figured that out a long time ago.
Yes,
that was going to be a huge problem, and I believe this is just the beginning genesis of it. But the point is, from the Stonewall riots, the drag queen imagery is it is heart and soul of gay liberation identity worldwide. But no, you have to do what? And it was funny because you said the most marginalized, and as you said, no, the most recently
marginalized, because liberalism cannot stand still. This is what it was all supposed to be. Because what we needed to do, first and foremost, decades ago, identify the victims. And by the way, if you go back, of course, several decades ago, you saw real victims. But then it was, okay, now find new victimization. So you start teaching people that they are a victim. They could be, you just might be a victim. I mean, it's almost like one of these ambulance-chasing lawyers was teaching the class. You just might be, you don't know you're a victim. Wait a minute. Have you ever thought of it this way? You're a victim because of this. You're a victim because of this. Now, I've always looked at the whole drag queen thing, and, you see it on TV or in a movie or something, and typically what I see is usually the drag queens on stage, and they're singing or lip-syncing to a song, and it's at a club, and everybody's applauding, and they're having fun. If you're having a parade, I don't see anyone victimizing anybody else in that situation. Now, again, not my thing, not my community. But certainly we can say, without a doubt, we identified this years ago and warned you of it, that there is no way for liberalism to sit still because of the nature of what you have taught, and this was part of the indoctrination. The last couple of generations, but especially the newer generation now, must look for, and I mean, you can see it in their face when someone is talking. I saw someone that was a panelist on a liberal channel just the other day, and they said something, and one of the liberal hosts, their face just looked like they were angry because of this just kind of a snide remark that was made that back in the day would have just been seen as a funny joke, just a snide comment. But it was clearly offensive to at least one of the panelists, one of the anchors, and they wake up every day, every single day, looking for a new reason to be offended. So don't be surprised. By the way, this goes for the newest of the liberal subgroups. You're next.
Oh yeah. You're just
because
you're just in line
because it's not going to stop. It's not going to be the end of the road. No one's going to say, "Oh, it's not going to be like Forrest Gump. You're just going to stop running and turn around one day."
No,
it's not going to happen that way.
And this is all part of the identity politics, which is the problem, as we've talked about in the Democrat Party.
You can't bring people together to get them to, because it is so fractured. Now, they may vote as a group. I'm not saying the Democrats are never going to win again, but the problem is tell me long term, how do you get anything done?
The thing is, the quote here was the needs of the most marginalized groups. And as you said, no, they're the most recent marginalized groups.
Right.
But the fact is, they're saying most marginalized groups, so they're just telling a great segment of their community, which is the symbolism, really, the key symbolism, the genesis of gay liberation in this country. You don't matter anymore. You're not marginalized. We're the ones that are the biggest victims, and you're not anymore. And you want to, from any group that has been organized because they all agree that they have been victims, for the newbies to come in and say, wait a minute, we're bigger victims than you, and we want to own the narrative, boom.
Yeah, because I can see next where, you're going to have the whatever part of that community looking, let's just say, at gays in general. Well, yeah, but no, coming out or being gay in 2018 or 2020, whenever it happens, is not a big deal. It may have been a big deal in 1950. Not a big deal now. You're not marginalized. We're more marginal, because that's basically what they're saying here.
But when you reference the symbolism of when they were actually beat up, and they were killed, and they were harassed, and they were they were physically assaulted,
right.
And a new group comes in and says, well, we don't want you dressing a certain way because that hurts our feelings, and that's more important than your symbolism of liberation. Boom.
Yeah, we're more of a victim than you are.
Yep.
And that will continue.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Do you have a love-hate relationship with road salt? We know it can be hard to spring back from all the chemicals used to keep the roads clear during the winter. While salt solutions are essential to safe winter driving, they can also lead to several truck troubles. That's why it's important to inspect your truck for any damage that's been done in order to get your rig ready for spring. The harsh salt solutions that are dumped on highways during winter months can wreak havoc on the electrical systems of your tractor and trailer. The acidic nature of these chemicals will erode any exposed connections or wire in very little time. To inspect this yourself, simply turn on your lights and look for any dimly lit bulbs or LED. This might mean there's resistance in the circuit causing damage to your electrical system.
This maintenance tip is a service of Valvoline HD. When the going gets tough, you need a motor oil you can count on.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hey, we get to talk about football.
All right. Or as Al Michaels would say, football.
Back in the news again.
All right.
After arranging for Colin Kaepernick to work out for the Seattle Seahawks this week, team officials postponed the trip when the quarterback declined to say he would stop kneeling during the national anthem next season, a league source told ESPN. Seattle still is considering bringing in Kaepernick for a tryout. No decisions are final. The Seahawks had contacted Kaepernick about 2 weeks ago to arrange a visit to the team headquarters, but after tentative arrangements were made and travel was planned, the trip was unexpectedly scuttled over the Seahawks' last-minute stipulation regarding Kaepernick's national anthem stance, a source told ESPN. The source said the Seahawks wanted to know that Kaepernick wouldn't kneel this season, and he was unwilling to give that assurance to them.
Yeah.
This comes at a time in which the Cincinnati Bengals visited with San Francisco 49ers free agent safety Eric Reid, who knelt with Kaepernick during the anthem and wanted assurances from Reid that he would not participate in on-field activism. And look, I think this is when you're going to see this happen from most teams. We saw Kim Pegula, who she technically owns her. They always refer to her husband, but she's actually the owner of the Bills, Kim Pegula, and they asked her, and she said, we talked to the players about it, and I really think that what she was indicating was the money aspect of it, that this is going to hurt you down the road, and we talked about this. That money is what would eventually change all of this. The NFL, whatever you think of the NFL, I guarantee. The thought process is they want to get to the point of no politics inside of a stadium during game time. Do whatever you want outside the stadium, not when you're at work.
Right. I'm sure the Seattle Seahawks would have that same mentality. Go do what you want to do off the field. That's yours. You own it. Not on the field.
Remember, they had Michael Bennett, who went to Philly, and I'm sure that caused, especially after he lied about the Las Vegas police. And that whole incident, and he was part of the reason last year why the protest, had that resurgence, because of his claims that he was harassed by the Las Vegas police, and he was the absolute liar about what happened, because they had the video of what happened, and they had the video of the police officers talking to him and saying, we were told there was an active shooter. We're here. We tell everybody get down. You get up and run. We're coming after you.
Right.
And, and they were not, by the way, I'm saying it in a much more terse voice than they said it. They were very calm. You can't do that. There were reports of an active shooter. You can't get up and run. So what did he do? He went out and lied that he was being harassed and profiled by the police, which helped the resurgence of the kneeling last year. And he lied about it.
Look, all professional sports, they're scrambling for viewers. Can't lose anymore as it stands.
I'm sure, yeah.
The Two Idiots Overnight. But what does that make me? Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. 866-90 Red Eye. Yeah, so I think the thing I was talking about with, the Seahawks already had Michael Bennett, and I'm sure they went through all that stuff last year, and a lot of their season ticket holders weren't happy with that, so the last thing they want to do is bring Kaepernick in, and here we go again. There's only you only have a certain length of time to your protest in the real world, and eventually people get sick of it. But it's like, okay, let's get on, let's play football, we're done with it. You made your point, move on, you can still protest outside somewhere else.
Well, that's the whole thing, is that I think most people, if they're behind your cause, are going to want to see you move on and get something done. If they believe you're just kneeling just to make a statement, once the statement is made, you're going to have to go on and then bring about change in whatever way you're looking to bring about change. We've said this when we were talking about Ferguson and the peaceful protesters there. We said, okay, great. Or the Occupy Wall Street thing. All right, great. But at some point you have to go and then you have to address what changes you want to bring about. And that's how that happens. I don't have any problem with a peaceful protest. There's no inherent right to do it on your employer's time. They can decide if they want to give you that right. If they want you to do that, the league can make that decision. And I think I'm just gauging it from what we have seen in recent months. I'm guessing that part of it is over. So, someone wrote the headline I was just telling you. The headline came from one of the sports blogs. If the Seahawks won't give Kaepernick a shot, who will?
They did.
No, they did give him a shot. He had a shot. It's up to him. It's his choice. If he wants to play, he can play. What's more important to him? And by the way, it doesn't mean he can't keep his cause.
Right. We wish you don't do it in our time.
That's what they're saying.
Right.
It's not going to be a part of the display.
Yeah, do whatever.
Won't be a part of the presentation of the game.
Do whatever you want to do on your own.
Yep.
We could care less.
Right.
This is our building. We're paying you money. This is our code of discipline for our team. We don't want you to. We want unity on the team and on the field. Mm-hmm. We don't need any disharmony whatsoever inside of the stadium during game time.
Right.
There will be a proper presentation. There'll be a dress code. There's a dress code for practices. No political symbols at practice. If you want to walk out of here afterwards and jump into your car and sit there and have Cuba forever,
mm-hmm.
and communism is great and you wish to promote that, God bless you. Oh, wait a minute. Communists don't believe in God.
Yeah. Bless you.
Bless you. And you can do whatever you want, but no. Well, that's a fascist. I get to do whatever I want whenever I get to do it. Welcome to the real world. No, you don't.
Here's what I would say. Save up some money and buy a team. Then you can make a decision on a greater level. But until you're the owner, you don't get to make that decision.
And I think you're going to have, now that it's been, remember, this would be going into the third year of it.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're that much closer. And it was 2 years ago where the NFL started telling the players, you better start saving your nickels and dimes now because we're going on strike.
Mm-hmm.
What is it, 2021?
Mm-hmm.
We're going on strike. You better start saving now. The average NFL player plays what, 4 years?
Right.
I saw that Richie Incognito, and it may be fewer years now. I think you're going to have players going in and saying, wait a minute, I'm going to play 3 or 4 or 5 years. I don't want to play 10 or 12 because of injuries. Richie Incognito of the Buffalo Bills, just, remember he was involved in the bullying thing down at, in Miami and all that, but he decided to retire. He just said, I'm done. He just said, I'm having, the stress and everything else and the, and the stress from worrying about injuries. I've had it. I can survive on the money that I had. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And just, made that decision. I think you're going to see a lot of, of NFL players saying, I've perfected this. I want to do it, but I'm not going to do it for 15 years. I'll do it for a few years, try to limit the risk of any physical injury, so I'll try to cash in as soon as possible. Well, now you got a lot of these players with this mentality, and Colin Kaepernick still kneeling, and you see television ratings go down, and you're a player coming in and you want to score big?
Well, the thing.
He and that movement are a reason that television ratings are down, and that's where the money is.
And there's only so much attention you're going to get off the field if he continues to be off the field. You know, if he's not on a team, he's not on a roster.
You're right.
And this in Seattle, they're talking about a backup position. You know, they're talking. First of all, they're only talking about a workout. You know, it's not. There's nothing, no kind of deal. But they didn't even want to have the meeting until he could make that assurance. And he said, "Well, I can't make that assurance." So now what you have, because I would look at it this way: if I had the cause, if that was, then I would, and if I believed that I could go in and prove myself again and have another great season as quarterback and have an opportunity, I would want that opportunity to rise again to the potential of what got me here in the first place, to have a bigger voice for my cause long term.
Oh, to have a bigger stage. And so only somebody who only has their own self-interest and maybe ego in mind would be insisting upon the fact that only will I sign if I can kneel.
Yeah, this is not a civil rights thing.
That it's not about the
between
cause,
the teams,
it's about
and
him, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because this is what I was telling you during the break. I mean, this is somebody that just wants to be a victim. He wants to be rejected by teams in this way. He wants this story out there. He wants people talking about this story so he can go out and be a professional victim. Well, sorry, but get in line.
Well, here's the thing. You notice he hasn't been involved, not that I know of. He hasn't been involved in any debates or extended interviews where he has been questioned, has he? It's almost as if, you know something, it's the symbolism alone of kneeling.
Right. Yeah.
That is about as far as I really wish to go. Having the serious discussion or actually having the debate of what's going on from somebody who disagrees with me, man, I don't want that. I just want to be able to kneel. I want to be a protester, but I want to make it easy. I don't want to have to actually articulate my position. I just want to kneel, get my say in front of reporters, and really never be in the arena of ideas.
Right. You should be wanting to prove yourself, get yourself back up to the big stage as quickly as possible, to give yourself the biggest voice as possible off the field between seasons. But that's not his goal.
Well, I have noticed that you don't have media outrage at this latest story. Maybe it will come, but it's almost as if, all right, enough already. You've had your 15 minutes. Man, you've had your half hour. This has gone on for 2 years. And I do think that when you look at the overall health, and I do believe this is one thing that the owners have probably done, and I'm going to guess they've done it on an individual basis with every single one of the agents out there. I'm assuming that's how it's gone. It's gone through the agents. You need to tell your players. You need to advise them that we were already, we had a particular growth for the next contract, and we were looking at, just hypothetically, 10% growth over the next 10 years. And we were looking at the fact, I forgot what percentage, that the players get 56% of whatever the revenues are. And you guys wanted 60. Well, you know something? Even if you get 60 from the projection now, it's still 15 to 20% less than your current contract right now. Hypothetical, whatever the numbers are. I mean, I don't privy to the numbers precisely. And therefore, with the projection of it going down, we're going to decrease the salaries on the next contract because television ratings are going down. Part of it is because some of your players, and you tell this to the National Football League Players Association, you can sit there, and if you're a political group and you wish to promote politics, go ahead. I think the players coming in are going to care about you getting them the best deal possible monetary-wise. They're in a very dangerous business. We know about the concussions. The players know about the concussions. They know about it. They're going to want to strike early. They're going to want to get as much money as they can, and who knows, they may want to shorten their careers to lessen the risk of injury. And that's what you do as the NFL. You go to the agents, every single one of the agents, and you tell them that. And you go to the NFL Players Association, and you say the same thing. And you say to them, are you going to be, because the players are going to know, are you about promoting politics? Are you about promoting the best deal for these players, and at the same time telling them, if you wish to promote your leftist politics, go do it out on the street. We don't care. You just don't do it in the factory.
Right.
I'm calling the stadium the factory.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you do the work.
Right. It's not part of the presentation of the game.
Right. And I think that's what's going on, and I think they're doing it in a very nice way. And we had talked about Kim Pegula from the Buffalo Bills in that interview statement coming out and stating that, we've had great talks with the players. And, a lot of them didn't understand the repercussions. And what are the repercussions? The repercussions are the money in your pocket for future years.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, because, the TV money is huge, but if the viewers aren't there and you're losing major sponsors, you're losing major sponsors not out of protest either. If you lose major sponsors because of attrition, that's when they don't come back. That's when they find somewhere else to go. That's when it becomes harder and harder. Got any questions? Go ask the guys at NASCAR.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It becomes just extremely difficult to bring those sponsors back in because the measurement by those sponsors, people wouldn't believe it, but they split hairs in terms of what they get for that kind of money. And if they take that money and put it into other types of investments to grow their business and realize they were maybe spinning wheels or not getting what they thought they were getting from that kind of sponsorship, they won't come back, and the word will get out through all of the massive ad agencies that it's just not worth it.
I wonder if the owners have pointed out to the NFL Players Association, the agents, look what happened to NASCAR.
Yeah.
You think we're bulletproof? We thought we were bulletproof.
Right.
We're wrong.
Right.
NASCAR thought they were bulletproof.
Right.
They weren't.
No. Because you're talking about two sports that are steeped in the culture. If you talk about NASCAR fans, those are diehard fans. Well, but guess what? You start seeing attrition. You start seeing this and that, and then the game starts changing because the sponsors start changing. You start seeing attrition in NFL, and we are a football nation. You start seeing that kind of attrition. And by the way, it's not just Kaepernick. The point is, it's not just the display. That's part of it. It's part of the fracturing of entertainment in general.
Oh, yeah.
All across the board. And we've said this all along.
Yes, we have.
And which means you've got to fight even harder for it. That's my whole point. This is real attrition. This isn't just protest. This isn't, and for some of the viewers it is. For some of the viewers, they're just not that into you anymore.
Yep.
I'll watch a game. I'm not watching the whole Sunday. That's a big, big deal to advertisers.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. I'm sorry. I'm laughing here because I was just reading the one story, the end of the world 2019. Will the rapture occur on April 23rd? Shock prediction says yes.
What?
According to conspiracy theorists, codes in the Bible suggest the end of the world is imminent, with the earth set to be destroyed on April 23rd. So I just put it in. I just put it into Google to see what different headlines would come up just before I went on the air. And it was, I just put end of the world April 23rd, and it was, one news source, world will end April 23rd. Numerologist says end of the world scheduled to begin in April. Failed doomsday preacher says. And then livescience.com. Totally bogus. Doomsday predicted. For April 23rd.
Totally bogus. That's very scientific. Totally bogus.
Totally bogus. It's not going to happen. They're calling it the recycled doomsday.
Yeah. Well, at least they're recycling. That's good for the planet. Yeah. Okay.
Well, if the whole world's going to be destroyed, I would hope that somebody recycles it in a proper
exactly.
proper fashion.
Yeah. Well, so now I've got to decide which bills to pay.
By the way, this is the David Meade who previously claimed that the rare alignment of stars on September 23rd of last year was the end of the world.
Okay, so he likes the number 23. We know that.
Apparently he does, but I guess my point is, once you're wrong a couple of times on predicting the end of the world, even once, don't you lose credibility at that point?
But he only has to be right once. That's the problem. Right? You know what I mean?
That's liberal.
Well, it's like that movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson.
Oh,
it turns out at the end that
I love that movie.
He was onto something. Yeah, that was I thought that was a great movie.
I love that movie.
But yeah, let's just hope that this guy is always wrong. I'm just saying, because we need other people to pay off our debt.
Get Mel Gibson on the phone.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. This is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, 866-90-RED-EYE. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. In the news today, and we forgot to talk about this, so I got to make sure we mention it now.
What?
They got enough votes in California to have the referendum to split California into 3 separate states. Northern California, Southern California, and California.
Oh.
So Tim Draper, the chairman of Cal 3, the organization pushing the measure, said they've obtained more than 600,000 signatures.
Okay.
Nearly twice the number they needed to get on the state ballot. They will present them to the California Secretary of State for verification.
All right.
Draper said in a statement, this is an unprecedented show of support on behalf of every corner of California to create 3 state governments that emphasize representation, responsiveness, reliability, and regional identity.
Do they know that the world's going to end April 23rd? They finally get enough signatures.
I just can't wait to see what the vote would be. I don't believe it's not going anywhere, but I'm still interested to see what the vote will be in California, because Congress would have to approve it. Congress has to. It's got to go through a huge process, and both parties would be doing the counting. Okay, let me see. Do we create 3 Democrat states? So that adds 4 more. That would add 4 more senators that would be Democrat, or a few more that would be Republican, whatever it would be. And likelihood it would be Democrats. Sorry, no go.
Yeah.
The measure would separate the Golden State into California, which would be the coastal area between Los Angeles and Monterey. Northern California, which would include everything north of Merced, including San Jose and San Francisco, and Southern California, which would include the area west of New California and south of Los Angeles.
All right.
So there you go.
Yeah. Well,
the separate states are based on existing counties. Statehood promotes a sense of community among residents and builds culture. Areas like Sacramento are currently run by powerful special interests like the Teachers Union. Partitioning the state will help put the power back into the hands of the constituents if the new state's elected officials aren't meeting the needs of the state's citizens. It will be easier to vote them out of power in the next election.
It will? All right.
Back in 2014, by the way, remember, he tried to spearhead the measure that would ask voters to divide California into 6 states. Now he's cut it to 3, and they seem to have more people that are willing to do it. Apparently, there's no official opposition group working against Cal 3 as of yet.
Okay.
Said Steve Maviglio, a longtime Democratic political consultant who helped lead the effort against Draper's 2014 measure.
Mm-hmm.
He told the Marin Independent Journal there's no official opposition group working against it, but he and others have discussed it. He criticized Cal 3 as a colossal waste of time. It's completely unworkable and ridiculous. It's kind of a shame with so many important issues facing the state that this wacky idea might appear on the ballot. If voters were to approve Draper's ballot, it would still need to be approved by the state legislature and the United States Congress. So there you go. Northern California, California, and Southern California.
All right. Good luck.
So
now, who's going to get the teams? That would be funny if no one wanted them. You finally get 2 football teams. Yeah, no thanks. But yeah, that's not going to happen.
Now, here's the case: would Congress approve it if they were relatively sure that the Southern California, which is San Diego and outside of Los Angeles,
right,
that would add 2 Republican senators, okay?
Right.
And then you would have California that would have, still this, because that would be that's L.A. and all that. Mm-hmm. They would have 2 Democrat senators, and then Northern California would have 2 Democrat senators because of San Francisco.
Right.
So you've split it up. So California still had 2 more, so you really haven't changed the balance of power. Right? You would have to add more senators, but you would.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, because you'd have the 2 that are there now, but then you would have 2 on each side that you were adding. So it wouldn't change the balance. Right.
Now, here's the question. Mm-hmm. And for the life of me, I have no idea. You can always get signatures for the ballot. It's whether you can get it approved.
Right.
You think if all the signatures are verified and they have enough, do you think that the people of California will vote yes to split up into 3 different states? I don't see it as of yet. It's a complete guess on my part. I don't live in California.
Well, what's
I haven't
interesting
spent significant time in California. So
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know because it would be such a massive consideration. There's so many things to think about, right? So you think about okay, vote yes on Proposition 5. Well, the ads are still only going to be so long, right? The propaganda is still only going to be as long as that, entire campaigning season for or against it is going to be. In other words, there's only so much time to get the word out. But it would really take, I believe, a real education on people in terms of making an informed vote. So the question is, would they, in the Facebook world, would they click the like button or not? Because you're right. The signatures, that is like clicking the like button for a lot of them. The vote sometimes can be as well.
Well, if you look at it, it looks like Southern California would be the biggest geographical area, but with the smallest population base.
Oh.
And much more moderate to Republican in those particular areas. Mm-hmm. Then you have California, which would be L.A., and then you have Northern California, which would be San Francisco, San Jose, Sacramento, all that. I don't know which would have – I'm assuming that California, which would be the L.A. area, would still have the majority of the population. How do you split? Remember, all the bonds, all the pension payments, everything that has to be made.
Education, right?
This is where the devil's in the details.
Yeah.
How do you split that up? All those obligations that had, because you can't forget about the obligations don't go away.
Right.
How do you split them up that all 3 states, the new states, would agree with that? And do you have to figure that out? Would Congress stipulate that before they even considered it, you would have to get all 3 ghost legislatures that don't actually exist yet to agree to take their portion, in essence, of the obligation and debt that California has.
Well, because it would have to be per capita, right? I mean, that's how you would split
I guess
it
that's
up.
the only way you could do it would be per capita.
I mean,
I
you
don't see
couldn't-
any other way you could do it.
There's no
could
other
you?
way. I mean, because you just don't have the productive, base in terms of population in order to support that kind of revenue. You just don't. It would have to be based on per capita. And then
And
again,
then remember,
well-
here's the other point. At the point that you start all these 3 new states, day one, there are no state laws.
no, you have to create them.
There's not one state law, right?
Well, you have to create a state constitution.
Right. How do you go through the process of doing that in the modern day? In the modern day, debt societies, debt obligation
How is
societies that we
this
live
not?
in today.
How is this not a Netflix series already?
That's a great point.
Secession, where you have like 1 or 2 major states.
Well, they're technically not seceding; they're forming new states.
I know, but it would be. It's the same idea.
Seceding from themselves.
because you're breaking it up. You're having to start over.
California, you realize what this means. No longer do you just want to secede from the United States. You're sick of yourself.
Yes,
We've had enough of us.
right.
We need to get out of this.
We've really, really got to get out of this. But think about that, because the process would be fascinating to follow if the will of the people were there. If you could get it done on Capitol Hill and the will of the people were there, because you're going to have to create all new state legislatures, which means you've got to find representatives. You've got to create a state constitution. You've got to elect a governor.
Traffic laws, speed limit.
All of it.
Road
environmental
funding,
laws.
tax.
It still is California.
A brand new state tax system for each new state.
Right. Or could they have an interim decade period where you couldn't do that? You really couldn't do that. I was going to say where the existing laws would be the laws of the states, the existing constitution would be the constitution of all 3 states, but no, you couldn't do that.
The only way you could do that is if everything was authorized by Congress. The federal government would have to oversee the breakup of California.
Yes. I mean, I was thinking
I don't know how you do it legally in this modern era. I just don't know how you do it.
I have no idea.
No. I know what you mean. You start with the transition period. Okay, it would be Congress have to approve it. Okay, in order to do it, the federal government has to oversee this.
Because as you mentioned,
which, by the way, if the federal government has to oversee whatever it costs the federal government, all those 3 new states should have to pay the federal government for the cost of splitting up.
Well, and those decisions would be essentially all also left up to a referendum, because you wouldn't have representatives because they're not duly elected yet in those 3 states.
Unless you had that was approved by Congress, ghost temporary legislatures in these territories that would eventually become separate
or
states.
make it all as part of one election process. In other words, the referendum and also choosing those representatives or approving Congress's,
it would be
representatives.
Congress would have to do I think Congress would have to do the whole thing because they are still part of the United States, and so Congress would be the one I would think that would have to make the legislation that there was an orderly transfer from California to the 3 separate Californias, that everything, went, and somebody has to oversee it.
Right.
Unless California did it on their own with the oversight of the federal government there. But you would think that they would have to have some type of temporary legislature to come up with all the rules and regulations that would go into effect, that would be approved by the people of those particular states, that wouldn't become law until it happened, but that would have to be overseen by the United States. By the way, I'm throwing this out. I don't even know what the constitutional issues could be there. They might be huge and it can't be done. I'm just talking top of my
or you could be that in those areas that are covered right now, those state representatives that are covered right now in those districts and, their
Right.
state senators would continue to serve until the first election day. They would serve in those roles within those jurisdictions as they are drawn on the map.
That would be an agreement then
Yes.
between all the three,
Yes.
the three separate
Because
states.
then you have elected representatives.
Right, and the federal government, because
Yes.
they have split it by counties. They're not
Right.
splitting counties.
Right.
Or anything like that. So,
Right.
and so if they didn't split the state districts,
Mm-hmm.
then also, you could say, that would temporarily become the government of the new state for 6 months in
Right.
until new elections came.
Right.
So you would have an orderly transition at that point.
Right.
Again, not knowing what the constitutional issues may be about who has the authority to make those type of rulings.
Fascinating, though.
It is. It really is. 866-90 Red Eye.
Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue says U.S. officials have raised concerns over a Canada-EU agreement that would give preferential tariffs to Canadian seafood.
We are having direct discussions through Secretary Ross of Commerce, who's negotiating the steel tariff and aluminum tariff discussions with the EU over the specific seafood issues there as well, and the new CETA arrangement, which puts us at a huge disadvantage not only on our seafood but other issues as well.
CETA refers to the agreement.
We're having direct discussions, candid and frank discussions with the EU about those agreements.
His comments came in a Senate hearing in answer to concerns raised by Senator Susan Collins.
Maine lobstermen are put at a huge disadvantage by this new agreement. And the lobster don't stop swimming when they reach Canadian waters and stay in the American side of the boundaries.
This is Stephanie Ho for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
The USDA report is a service of Cenex Roadmaster XL Premium Highway Diesel Fuel.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90 Red Eye. Also in the news today, you're going to be hearing about it. Probably there will be no bigger news item this weekend. Well, what am I, an idiot? I can't say that. Not with the way the news cycle goes these days.
Yeah, wait for it.
And with President Trump in office.
Wait for it.
Right, Mr. President, if you're up now and listening on WMAL, please don't tweet. Don't tweet anything right now.
Or at least tweet before we go home so we can get it out and talk about it.
Well, the FBI director with the excerpts that are being leaked. I don't believe they're being leaked, but the media finding out about the excerpts in the book, and you and I, the first thing we came to the conclusion is, the excerpts that have come out from the book actually make the Obama administration look worse and add really nothing to Donald Trump. In fact, the one criticism he had of Trump, we actually viewed as not a criticism of Trump. And it got back us thinking again, well, wait a minute. We've always thought that Comey and the way that he answered questions, we always just said it seemed a little weird. He didn't seem to really be a critical thinker when it came to investigations. And the same thing here. The fired FBI director, James Comey, describes President Trump as untethered to truth and ego-driven. Wow. We haven't heard that one before. In his explosive forthcoming book, A Higher Loyalty. In the book, Comey goes as far to question the strength of Trump's marriage to his wife Melania after revealing that Trump asked him to investigate salacious allegations about his actions with Russian prostitutes, his alleged actions, by the way. It bothered Trump that if there was even a 1% chance that his wife Melania thought it was true, that he wanted it, he wants it completely and totally investigated so he can prove to everybody it never happened. In what kind of marriage and what kind of man does a spouse conclude that there's only a 99% chance her husband didn't do that? I have no idea what that meant. I read that statement over and over again and just, did you miss it completely?
Yeah, he totally didn't get that at all.
Right. A guilty man doesn't ask that question, ask you to investigate.
Here's your forecast.
We have a major storm system bringing heavy snow to portions of some northern tier states. You're going to want to watch it in North Dakota along I-94, especially western North Dakota, and western South Dakota along I-90. As much as 20 inches of snow can be expected in parts of that region and in northern Nebraska. We're talking north of I-80, though, for the most part. In these overnight hours, you could see some icing due to the moisture to the south of I-80 and then the colder winds to the north of I-80. That same storm system is likely to fire off some severe weather today. Some deep southerly moisture moving in and a low-pressure area will couple to create some potential flash flooding for the Mississippi Valley today. Look for thunderstorms, damaging winds, and hail at a minimum today for a good portion of Arkansas and eastern Kansas. Your national forecast from Red Eye Radio. I'm meteorologist John Trout.
Thanks so much, John. 866-90-RED-EYE.
The Bonus Show.
And he's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90-RED-EYE. Just was talking about Comey's book, which is coming out, A Higher Loyalty.
A higher loyalty?
Excuse me here. The voice is going, after being on all week. Higher
loyalty.
In the book, to repeat here and then go further, repeat what I just said before the bottom of the hour. Comey goes so far as to question the strength of Trump's marriage to his wife, Melania. He, after revealing that Trump asked him to investigate salacious allegations about his alleged actions with Russian prostitutes. It bothered President Trump if there was even a 1% chance his wife thought it was true, Comey wrote, according to the New York Post. Later on, Comey said, in what kind of marriage to what kind of man does a spouse conclude that there is only a 99% chance her husband didn't do that? That wasn't the only personal jab at Trump. The Associated Press reported that Comey, who stands 6'8", described the president as shorter than he expected, with a, quote, too long tie and, quote, bright white half moons, quote, under his eyes that he suggested came from tanning goggles. He also made a conscious effort to check the president's hand size, briefly a subject of mockery among Trump's Republican rivals on the campaign trail, saying it was smaller than mine, but did not seem unusually so. Comey described Trump's presidency as a forest fire and, of course, brought up the whole mob boss thing, the silent circle of assent, the boss in complete control, the loyalty oaths, the us versus them worldview. That's it?
Huh.
That's the excerpts that have come out to make you say, these are the bombshell revelations?
Like a mob boss. You mean like pretty much every other president? The expected loyalty, our side versus theirs, is I'm sorry, was there
ego driven?
Is there one that I'm missing? I don't know. Maybe Gerald Ford.
Well, it was funny because we made the joke earlier.
Yeah.
That Comey said, basically the news is Comey doesn't like the president.
Well, here's the breaking news. James Comey is off the Trump train. He's angry at the guy who fired him. Okay, now let's get to substance. Is there anything in the book we're going to learn? Anything that relates to his time as director of FBI?
Actually, yes, but it's not on Trump because and we want to make this clear here because when he said that Trump asked him that he was, look, I want you to investigate these allegations. You're the FBI director. I want you to find out the truth because I don't want my wife believing, even thinking 1% of her thinking that there's a possibility that this might be true. So investigate it. Comey makes that a negative. When I read that to begin with, I said it's the same feeling I had when he testified before Congress. I always thought there doesn't seem to be the normal progression of critical thinking of an investigator that I sensed from him, of how an investigator would think. And when that came up, I thought the same thing, because you'd think that one of the first clues, and not always, but one of the first clues is if somebody is guilty, they don't come to the authorities and say, please investigate this now.
Yeah. Well, I just...
Because I don't want my family to ever think that I did it, and I know I didn't do it, so investigate this and get to the truth.
Well,
he didn't tell him to investigate and do a whitewash.
Well,
that would have been a story.
Right. I mean, you look at that whole thing, and it's just it's bizarre in the way it's written. But it's right in line with the way he spoke when he testified on Capitol Hill twice. Because it was the question I was asking after the second time, especially. I was thinking, and we talked about it. How in the world did he ever become FBI director? Because I'm not hearing the analytical mind at work.
You and I had that discussion whenever he testified before Congress. It just didn't come across from the mind of what you would want as an FBI director and the natural, curiosity. He really didn't get into the curiosity of an investigation and did it match what the text of the law was. He never got into the specifics of the law that would make the average person understand it. For example, and he still talks about it because he mentioned in his book when he talks about Hillary, well, no reasonable prosecutor would do it. Why? And then he mentions again in the book, well, nobody been prosecuted for that in a case like this for 50 years. Well, number one, we've only had computers that we've been bringing home for the last 20 years, so the 30 years before that really didn't matter. When you look at it to the way that information now is exchanged. Number two, I don't know of another Secretary of State that ever brought a server home, so you can't make that comparison.
Exactly.
And then he actually talks about in the book that he would get that from FBI people, where he actually answered in the book that he said, if you did this, you would be fired, but you wouldn't be prosecuted. Anybody believe that? That if an FBI agent brought home a server and had top secret information flowing around in unsecured areas, that they wouldn't be brought up on charges? That's what he claimed he told FBI people that asked him about it later on. But I think the most important thing that is more damning to the Obama administration, this was obtained by ABC News. Comey revealed that he felt he had to take on a more prominent role in the Clinton investigation because of unverified, classified information about then Attorney General Loretta Lynch. According to ABC, Comey wrote that the source and content of the material remains classified as I write this. However, he added, if that information had become public, it would have undoubtedly been used by political opponents to cast serious doubt on the Attorney General's independence in connection with the Clinton investigation. End of quote. Whoa.
Well,
whoa.
They didn't say bombshell necessarily affecting Trump negatively.
Well, you're right. Well, remember, because it was unverified. Well, you saw where unverified allegations. Well, we saw how far unverified allegations against Donald Trump as a special prosecutor looking into crimes of the 2016 election.
Right. And they were saying, and remember what the whole thing on the dossier. Well, but that wasn't the whole thing of. Well, you included it as a part of your petition for a warrant. So if he's mentioning this, even if it says unverified, it was worth mentioning in the book. Right? He felt the need to make a point.
I have to ask this question. Did he just let out top secret information? He may not have, because nobody knew that there was unverified top secret information. Was it top secret not to let out that there was top secret unverified information on Loretta Lynch? It never got out till now. Remember, this is the Comey that claimed that he cared about the people in the Justice Department and would never want to hurt their reputations in any way. If it's unverified, why are you bringing it up?
Right. Well, because what have we heard in terms of memos and everything else, redactions and all of this during this entire process?
So that
you could compromise the integrity of an investigation. You could compromise assets in the field. And he talked about it while sitting before Congress. And he's said it a couple of times, protecting the integrity of the FBI and those agents who work hard every day. And let's keep in mind, the first thing he did was went to his buddy to leak everything after he got fired, and then, of course, started work on his tell-all book.
Well, it was not known yesterday. It never leaked out that the reason that Comey took over the investigation is because of unverified, top secret information on Loretta Lynch that it have got out would have raised serious doubt on the Attorney General's independence in connection with the Clinton investigation. Now, he might have not given the specifics, but he gave, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, did he give enough where somebody might accuse him of letting out top secrets? Because you haven't said precisely what she did, but you have said enough to know that there was a huge conflict of interest, apparently, whether it was an incident, I don't know what it was, an incident whatever, that would cast serious doubt on the Attorney General's independence in connection with the Clinton investigation. If it was unverified, well, what possibly is that allegation?
Because it's not the discussion on the plane with Bill. That's already a known
No, that's
item.
known, right.
That's a known event.
And why would it still be clear? Why wouldn't that have leaked out? If it was unverified, it was unverified. He's been gone for a long time. By the way, does he still know that it's been unverified? How does he know that? Does he still, I don't know, does he still have top secret clearance on certain areas, even though he's an ex-FBI director?
I don't know.
How would he know that to begin with? All these questions. Well, what he's going to do is he's going to open up a can of worms where people that are much more in the know of all the legalities of all of this will start questioning this weekend. And by Monday, who knows? I think the Republicans have already set up a website, to fact check him. But everything that's in that book is going to be gone over to find out whether every single point matches what he has said while under oath. You can guarantee that one. And if not under oath, if nothing contradicts what he said under oath, any other statements he has made at any other time that apply to any other emails or any other evidence that the House Intelligence Committee or House Oversight Committee or Senate Intelligence Committee or Oversight Committee has. I don't know. I don't know what he knows. There's so much we don't know. All I know, if I was Comey's lawyer, I probably would advise him, don't write the book right now.
Well, we said that a few weeks ago when we started talking about, more and more about the book and its release. Well, wait a minute. Is this the direction you want to go? And remember, that's also when Nunes and Gowdy were really turning up the heat on the FBI to release the memo. So here's my question. That certainly wasn't just a coincidence in timing, was it? That Nunes and Gowdy both thought that it was important to raise the possibility of impeachment if they did not get cooperation from the FBI on that memo?
Everything's been really quiet. Now, has Adam Schiff seen it? I'm assuming if those two have, he's seen it.
And he's not known to be quiet.
I've heard nothing. 866-90-RED-EYE.
The Detroit Powertrain offers efficiency through innovation. Detroit's Brad Williamson has all the details.
A lot of the people in the industry have been doing downspeeding for a while. This is really our first entry into that arena, if you will. So we've combined a DD15 with a DT12 automated transmission and a 6x2 axle, and you can also get a 6x4, but really it's a complete powertrain. All three pieces, including the front axle, obviously, all four pieces are from Detroit, and it also has something in the transmission called intelligent powertrain management. It's a better step towards predictive technology, so it looks a mile in front of you when you're driving. It knows the territory and the terrain you're going to come up on, and it manages the engine and the transmission the most optimally as it can when you're in cruise control.
For more on the Detroit Powertrain, log on to demanddetroit.com. For Shell Rotella, that's the Engine Report.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly. I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, I found the website. The GOP launches lioncomey.com.
Okay.
Lyin. They bought the domain name.
That's funny.
The RNC's website, lioncomey.com, features quotes from senior Democratic leaders, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, attacking Comey's character during the 2016 presidential election,
right.
And they go up right on to call him a liar and a leaker.
Well, like you said, too, earlier in the show, for those that missed it, Hillary blames Comey for her loss. He brought the investigation back.
Yeah, that was our segment. Hey, who out there likes Comey?
Yeah, who is it that likes Comey? By the way, told you during the break, can you imagine? Just as this interview is about to start, good evening. As you know, Syria has been gassing their own people. So tonight, I, as President of the United States, have decided to... Yeah. Wait for it.
Wait for it.
Wait for it.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.